The Labour donor, row, harm, Starmer. 0207 862 2222. Joining us in the studio is the former Labour advisor, Stella Chandakidu, who I think advised 3 Labour shadow cabinet members, so you're well in there. The Prime Minister may have broken parliamentary rules by failing to declare that clothes for his wife were purchased by a Labour donor, according to The Times. Businessman Lord Alli was said to have covered the £5,000 cost of the garments for Lady Victoria Starmer before, and there she is on the right, before and after the election. MPs must register gifts and donations within 28 days of receiving them or face a potential investigation. Downing Street says Sir Keir thought he'd follow the rules but came forward this month after receiving fresh advice. Yesterday, the Foreign Secretary David Lammy defended him and said he and his wife needed to look their best.
This is not an issue of transparency. He is attempting to be transparent. US presidents and first ladies have a huge budget paid for by the taxpayer so that they look their best on behalf of the US people. We don't have that system over here. The truth is that successive prime ministers, unless you're a billionaire like the last one, do rely on donations, political donations, so they can look their best, both in the hope of representing the country if you're in the opposition, or indeed as Prime Minister. That's the situation.
Well, it was a really forthright defence there, nothing being apologised for at all. But the Conservatives have called for a full investigation into apparent serious breaches. Leadership candidate James Cleverly branded Starmer a hypocrite after accusing the Tories of cronyism.
If your position is that, well, these things happen and we should be thoughtful and flexible in our response, that's fine. But if, like Keir Starmer, you have been really aggressive in your criticism of Conservatives for this, then you've got to make sure that you are totally above reproach. And he has failed to do that. And so I think it's absolutely legitimate that we point out the hypocrisy of someone who basically got his job by criticising others for what he is now doing.
All right. Well, so I mentioned Stella, who knows the corridors of the Labour Party. What do you think of this?
I completely agree with David Lammy. The reality is that the same pundits who are crying out loud about Victoria Starmer getting free frocks would be burning her at the stake if she was to appear in a formal appearance representing the UK and not looking absolutely impeccable. And I think it's a very good thing that especially British brands get to be advertised by our own First Lady wearing them. And it is a fact that prime ministers are making a lot less than they used to be. Keir Starmer is making the same amount of money that Gordon Brown was making. He is making less than Tony Blair was making. So I completely agree with David Lammy. Unless you're a billionaire, right, like Rishi Sunak, you simply do not have the funds to do what it takes.
Owen Jones.
He's in the top 1% of earners. He's richer by income than 99% of the population. The idea he can't afford his own clothes, in fact, the combined household income, including, as you mentioned, his wife there, is about £200,000 a year. This is so insulting to ordinary people who have to look smart without relying, let's be honest, on rich political sugar daddies. It is very dangerous in a democracy when you get wealthy donors showering political leaders with gifts. I think that is corrosive to democracy. I have to say, and I'm going to compliment you here, you've turned up, I think, unfortunately, presenting evidence for the prosecution because you look great. And I don't think, unless I'm mistaken, you relied on some rich donor showering you gifts. And I have to say, if this was Boris Johnson, this is the test, the Boris Johnson test. What would you say if this was Boris Johnson? Are you honestly going to tell me that if a rich donor was showering Boris Johnson with gifts he didn't declare, you'd be going, he needs to look the best, so does his wife in front of the world?
It's
ridiculous.
Can I answer? You're making my point, Owen. I'm a nobody. I work for a charity. and I go on TV a few times a week. And people complain incessantly under my Twitter whenever I wear the same clothes, which I have to, obviously, because I'm not rich.
Do
Do you think that's a problem with someone on £200,000 a year?
Imagine if I was married to the British Prime Minister and I had to represent the UK on the global stage. What do you expect from the First Lady of the United States?
Do you think someone with a combined income...
Emily,
Sorry,
I want to know. I can't guess where you're going to go on this story. Go on.
Can I just break in here? So the rules are set, and they broke the rules. They carried on accepting gifts at a time where Lord Alli was already in the papers for passes for glasses. So I've just got to say, it just seems like I know it's a new government, but the rules are very clear. Now, if he wants to change the rules, he is a Prime Minister, he can do that, and he can take it to the electorate and say, I think the taxpayer should start funding my wife's clothes. If he isn't prepared to do that, he must follow the rules, because Owen makes a very good point.
Rules can be wrong.
If this was Boris Johnson's wife and a rich donor, as we did find out, a rich donor had lent them money for their wallpaper, and that wallpaper, in fact, never actually ended up existing, there was a huge cronyism row about
So, Stella, is it the case
it's about the rules.
You would have attacked Boris Johnson if he'd done this?
Boris Johnson was accused of multiple scandals and for multiple times accepting donations and not declaring them. So this was a very different situation.
Yes, but the multiple happened over a
facts are
period
very
of
different.
time.
What happened is, back in June, Keir Starmer accepted 4 tickets for the Taylor Swift concert in Wembley from the Football Association, not by some, dodgy donor. And he asked the parliamentary authorities at the time, do I have to declare, does my wife and kids have to make a declaration? And they said, no, you don't have to make a declaration on their behalf. You just declare the tickets for yourself. So that is why last week they had to clarify what is the situation with the clothes, at which point they realized what was happening.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's 3 of you and callers as well. Let me just go to a call. Jackie in Surrey, hi.
Hi there.
What do you think of this? Is he in trouble?
I am totally and utterly opposed to MPs and ministers taking tax-free money. I think it's open to abuse. As an ex-civil servant, it's absolute no gifts, absolutely not. For exactly that reason, it leaves you open. As far as I know, I may be wrong, I believe there's no upper limit on the number of gifts. So, let's take 1,000 a year. How much does that equate to? They are on a reasonable good salary. Blair probably earned way more than his salary from being Prime Minister in public speaking afterwards, for example.
Yeah, slightly.
And
slightly.
The other thing is my husband actually made it in a corporate company. When he reached a certain level, he was unofficially told that maybe he should up his level of suits that he was wearing to more, shall we say, designer type level, appropriate. So that cost us money. At that time, I couldn't work. We had a disabled child. And along with that job came corporate evening events and trips, etc., etc.
He was expected to pay for that.
Yes.
Owen.
Keir Starmer...
Hang on, Jackie. Owen's talking.
Keir Starmer in the last Parliament accepted more freebies than every single Labour leader put together since 1997. £76,000, 20 football tickets, VIP tickets.
Football tickets count?
To see Taylor Swift. The fact is, and from Lord Alli, £16,200 worth, including multiple pairs of glasses. Fact is, if rich people can shower politicians with gifts, that is open to abuse in terms of what often are they after.
Corrupting Stella.
But the other point is it sticks in the craw. He's driving pensioners into hardship by attacking the winter fuel allowance. He's driving kids into poverty with a 2-child benefit limit.
Whether politicians should be allowed to accept gifts and donations is a completely different conversation, which I'm very open to. I'm very open to looking at donations more generally. What I cannot accept is that someone like Victoria Starmer, who is a health occupation worker at NHS, as far as I'm aware, so I can't imagine her making more than 60, 70k, like at the very, very top.
That's a lot of money.
If she's very, very senior, she's expected to wear dresses that cost £2,000 a dress. Victoria Beckham, Temperley, whatever, Stella McCartney. These are very expensive dresses.
Her dresses were costing £275.
She doesn't have to wear very much.
She is not expected to wear
Christine in Staffordshire. Hi, Christine.
Hi. I seem to think that unfortunately, we're conflating this. Boris Johnson and all the freebies that he had and the amount of money that was spent and given to him by donors, and I'm really surprised at Owen Jones and his behaviour. For goodness sake, Keir Starmer is only just in the door. Give the guy a break. I don't like the fact about gifts being given. I understand that. But this is getting hysterical, and it is all because it's a right-wing conspiracy.
Owen has not been on the right wing.
Christine, I'm consistent. That's what you're attacking me for. I attacked Boris Johnson over and over again. If you want attack pieces on Boris Johnson, use Google, OK? I condemned the Conservatives. I wrote a book called The Establishment, which in large part attacked...
I've read it.
Bless you. Still available, do check it out. But in which condemned in large part the Conservatives for their associations with wealthy people and how that corrupts democracy. I'm consistent. I don't see politics as a football game where you just cheer on one team and then you're not consistent.
Listen to Christine.
All I'm saying is don't join in with the right-wing press at the minute who are trying to bring Starmer down. That's the point.
Yeah.
Like the Sun newspaper which endorsed him.
Christine is exactly right. And you know what's the thing? You have all of these scandals that marred Boris Johnson's premiership. And you have British people being lied that all politicians are the same. And you have some of the most corrupt countries in the world where people believe their countries is just as corrupt as British people believe the British politicians are corrupt. And the reason you have that is because you have political commentators who nitpick on politicians.
I'm really sorry.
You are conflating the
I'm so sorry, but you're very good at giving it. The Labour Party were brilliant at giving it, and you can't take it when the criticisms... The fact is, Starmer will move over this, it will all be fine, but he's used up some political capital. He has got loads of new MPs. They are soon going to get embroiled. They are soon, I can guarantee this, there are going to be Labour MPs.
Can we just take one more call?
He's used up political capital.
Let's take one more call.